Hello, Miss Laurel. How are you? Oh, let's. Oh, I have to unmute you. Sorry. Hold on. Actually, you can unmute yourself. I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
There we go.
this is so new for me. I've been doing Zoom for a year that I don't know how to do this one.
Yeah. No. Where this is all we do. I'm actually right now on the Friday Night Lights IMDb page because there's a character on the show that it reminds me completely of you, and I'm trying to get her name because it'll drive me
I've
insane.
heard this. I think I've
Yeah.
heard this.
It's and if anyone that's watched or is a fan of Friday Nights, they'll know. It's I want to get her name. What the heck's her name? Here we go.
I'm like playing around with this thing. I've never used
Janice
it before.
Janice Smollett, who's
Yeah,
Jess
yeah, yeah.
Merriweather, and
Yeah.
she for you guys out there that don't know, in Friday Night Lights, she is the boyfriend or no, the girlfriend sort of the one of the players, with like family friend, but she becomes the equipment manager for the football team, and she's like it's the greatest thing ever for her, and it just reminded me of kind of Marianne's journey. So thank
Journey
you for
Smollett just
joining us.
did a TikTok, and everyone's getting me to try and do this TikTok. It's like what is it? It's like she like did this Bruno Mars dance, and I was Bruno Mars for Halloween. So everyone's trying to get me to do this, but I know exactly who you're talking about
Yeah,
now.
and you kind of look like she's also in the show for you guys, that more current show, the one that was on HBO, Lovecraft Country, which is a show that I love. Anyway, so do you want to give like the cliff note on who you are? I mean, I told them a little bit, but
Hi everyone. Good morning. I have been. I am from Fort Lee High School. I went there, graduated class of 2008. Went to Stony Brook, graduated class of 2012. Um, got my master's 2013 in human resources. Have had a long journey throughout, like venturing into different sports.
so you know what? I'm going to jump in right there because there's one of the
Oh, okay.
questions, and I'm going to go in order, but I'm going to skip this. I'm going to skip around for this one. You said what you majored in college and everything, and this is one of the students' questions. If you knew that you wanted to get involved in sports in high school so much, what made you choose political science as your major in college? And what advice would you give yourself? And this is a question we asked another guest speaker. Like, if you could talk to senior year Marianne, what would you say? Would you still say to do political science, or would you do something different, something like
I hope a lot of you learn from my mistakes.
that?
I didn't know. I didn't really understand what I was using political science for. One, I didn't know that I was I was going to be in sports and as deeply in sports as I am now. But even working in college within a sports program, I thought that me doing, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't know I wanted to. And by the way, if you're going to be a lawyer, you probably want to take English rather than political science. But, I didn't know. And I wish if I were to say anything while you're in your senior year or while you're not in college yet, seek guidance, listen to people, take their input for consideration, listening to those things and allowing that to be a directive tool for you going into college. I would say that would be my advice. Taking just taking more initiative into getting guidance and listening to those who have experienced it. They don't have all the answers, but they're going to at least give you some direction or some feedback, some level of experience that they've had. They're going to use to give you advice. I wish I did that more, but I guess a lot of things you don't know until you learn from it. Um, and clearly, regardless of what I've done, my experience working with Stony Brook football has still helped navigate my career path. So I would say that would be my advice.
Okay. Now, can everyone? I just want to make sure can everyone see Marianne? Okay, I just want to make sure because I have so many like different settings for myself when I teach, and I hope
What should
trying to.
I do? Like, how do what
Nothing. You're
settings?
good.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because I have it. Let me ask Lily. Can you see Marianne, or is it just something different?
Yeah, I could see her.
Okay,
I
perfect.
see Lily.
Okay, now this is working great because whatever. Uh, all right, so we're just gonna jump around here. Our next question here. Um, what was the atmosphere like in the bubble? Like just the general kind of you walk in, were people like really paranoid about getting sick or something, or what
Okay.
was the
All right, so I'll give you like the whole general landscape. I was part of the building process. So from conception to completion, I was there. So even before the players got in and before the teams got in, I was already there. So I was there for a total of 119 days. I'll give you the full landscape. There were 3 hotels and the playing facility, which is ESPN Wide World of Sports at Disney. And there were 3 hotels. I stayed at the Grandestino. There was the Grandestino, the Grand Floridian, and the Yacht Club. For any of you who have stayed at Disney properties, the every I didn't stay, and a lot of times we didn't really get to cross over to different hotels. But I will say, where I stayed, I was with the top 8 teams. So I had the top 4 teams in the West, top 4 teams in the East. And the atmosphere that we lived in our hotel, it felt like a college campus. It was surreal because, you know, players are walking around without bodyguards and they're walking around in their little groups. So you see like 3 Lakers on one side, and then you see like the Boston Celtics, like 3 of them walking on the other side. And it was hysterical. It was really funny to see that dynamic. I will say there were a few times I had to go to the Grand Floridian, which was the next tier of teams. So it was the next 4 East teams and the next 4 West teams. And the way that hotel was set up, since it's more open, and there was like a pool in the middle, so there was like the central area, and each team had their own building. It was more like a retirement home. The guys would congregate at the pool and the pool bar and the barber shop all in the middle, and it was funny to see all those teams gather together. Where I'd probably say at my hotel, you know, teams were divided into like, their people, their teammates. So it was a pretty interesting lifestyle to live for 4 months. And I would say, living like you're in a cafeteria, food serving. I don't think anyone was scared of getting COVID. We felt so safe. I mean, that was our number one priority, health and safety. It was incredible.
yeah. When you said bodyguards, it made me think like it must have been so unique to see because they must have been just have their guard down in general because they're not worried about
Exactly.
they're just living their life like they've probably been free. Like you think
Right.
they're contained, but it's almost like from the beginning at least probably was like a breath of fresh air for a couple of days.
It was different, and it was hysterical. Like, I remember 2 of the younger players were like, I can't believe Bron is just riding his bike in the hallways. Like LeBron was riding his bike in the hallways, and people are just walking around outside, like they go for bike rides or they just go for walks to just clear their mind and get some fresh air. And you just see them like living in this almost college-like environment. It was hysterical.
That's funny. Now we've been so this class is everyone in this class right now is 100% virtual. So the way that Fort Lee has done it is there's some students that it's kind of up to the student or the family. They're either in the beginning it was everyone was home. Then it was we had 3 different cohorts and we had 2 cohorts. Now we're up to just 1 cohort. And in the 4th marking period, basically students that want to be in person will be in person. Students that want to be remote are remote. I'm remote until April. I was just allowed to be remote because of childcare. My son was born, but that'll end soon. this class is actually all remote. Everyone and all the students are. So what I'm going to with that is, so we've had to kind of adjust how we work. Like I have a big monitor here, the laptop, I have an iPad stuck to the side. So what was it like to work? Because like working and writing in that bubble, like you're just like functionally, like did you have access to everything you needed type of, or did you have to kind of like make it work and then kind of come up with a routine? That's kind of like, I guess, what we've had to do.
I mean, so prior to going into the bubble, which I entered the bubble June 25th. So we had been working from home since March 13th. And I had kind of found this, I'm pretty good at working on my own. And then I work directly with the executive vice president of events. So we have great communication regardless. And it really is finding this, finding our flow of communication and what works for us. I will say we were never limited to any resources. Working at the NBA, there's so many perks. There are so many things that allow us to do what we do so well. Our resources are just, we're so blessed, to be honest. But my routine when I was living in the bubble, like it was not just, so I was part of also doing player experience. So it wasn't just I was sitting at my desk working and in front of a computer. Like I had to keep moving.
Yeah.
I had things to do like on a day-to-day basis, whether it's like setting up certain events while we're there or going to the arena. So I was on the whole time, which was, it helped get my mind through the 4 months. But at the same time, that was the difficulty too. Like I was always on, but that was it really. Like it wasn't that much of a difficult adjustment. I think more of the difficult adjustment is more mentally, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't limited to resources, but like I missed my mom, like I missed my mom, I missed home cooking, I missed my friends. So that was more of what it was over anything.
Yeah, and that answers one of our other questions. I'm trying to use your answers to go to the next question, and that answer is definitely it's one of the questions was, how is it being isolated for 3 months? And if I tell my students this all the time, if I'm not looking at you, if I'm looking like over here or over here, it's because I have a monitor over there, I have questions over
I
here.
totally
So
get it. We
and I
found
always
our
feel
way to
bad
make
for
it
them.
work. For sure.
So this, because it's interesting that the way that these questions came about, because these questions the students gave me probably like 2 weeks ago. And then last week we took a good look at the what do I call it? Not what's the word? Issue between we looked at the weight room for the NCAA tournament for the women and the discrepancy, and we did the whole. We looked at the Oregon player who filmed. This is what it looks like. And then I reread, because we actually watched on Netflix, they have a show called The Playbook, and there's a whole episode about Coach Staley, Dawn Staley, the Gamecocks head coach, who they're probably sick of hearing the story. Mr. Weinstein, Craig Weinstein, Mr. Weinstein, right? He took me to the NBA Hall of Fame inductions once, and I tell people, I preface that story with, I had no business being at the NBA Hall of Fame inductions, but he took me there, and I lost my wallet down like a big pitch, and there's this woman helping me. She's all dressed up nice, helping me. The only person, I'm frantic, she finds it, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and we're doing the introductions, and they say, now next up, Coach Staley is being inducted. I'm watching. I'm like, oh, that's the lady that got my wallet. Okay, she's being inducted into the Hall of Fame now. So what I'm saying is, like, she is a champion of like women's sports, and we see it more with men now too, in terms of like the athletes, like that the male in the NBA are like also fighting for women's sports. So did anyone give you a like hard time being a female in a male dominated sports, or do you kind of see it as like a, for lack of a better word, a fraternity of all just NBA, WNBA, just athletes doing the best for themselves? So I'm sorry, that was I'm really bad at asking questions. I probably didn't ask one. The question is, what is it like being a female in a male dominated field? That's kind of where I'm going with that.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like my situation's a little special. but there are some times that, I go through criticism and things like that. I went through criticism in the bubble. I went through criticism um, throughout my whole journey, from transitioning out of college into into professional sports. I've dealt with all of that, but I've also been respected. And I'll say specifically for the bubble, like from teams, the amount of respect I've gotten, and people not looking at gender as a limitation. I'm very fortunate. And I texted you yesterday,
Yeah,
and
I
I
showed them
was
actually I just to show how your work ethic. I said, look, this is a text message I got from Marianne at 11 o'clock. Then I showed the part that said I'm studying while I'm studying your craft. I showed them exactly what you sent me just to show like this is you.
it's crazy because there were so many hard days in the bubble. Like, I won't lie, and there were so many hard days throughout this journey, but that's part of. But I will never shy away from whatever has made me it painful, or whatever has made it um, tough. Those are the things that have helped me grow and decide what I choose in my life now. And it's amazing to see that. Even when I was reading the questions you guys submitted, like, he gave me an overview, and I was getting a little bit of, like, PTSD, like reliving certain moments, that, like, the realness of what was difficult. But those are the things that have pushed me forward. Those are the things that made me learn my best lessons. And I'm fortunate for that. So yes, I've gotten hell, but at the same time, those were the things that made me the
Who you are.
person I am today, for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's something we try to echo with the students like myself. I've, my kind of journeys through everything, and I always kind of say the same thing, like, whatever you go through made you who you are today. And the one thing I want to squash is, because I kept reading the comments on Coach Staley's post about the inequalities, and everyone's go-to comment is, well, no one watches the women's games. Well, they don't bring in any money. Well, let me tell everybody something. So people have short-term memory. The NBA back in the 70s, before Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were drafted, before they were drafted, the NBA was in the toilet. The NBA actually didn't show the finals live. Think about that for a second. Imagine watching the NBA finals and it's not live, it's taped. It already happened. And then Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came in and revitalized the whole league, and the kind of, so, and that's kind of what you just gotta you can't say, oh well, they don't make any money. We can, well, why not? Aren't they making money? They actually could make more money if they go overseas, but they're choosing the WNBA because they're trying to help the females get bigger, and the bigger sport, and they need men. No, they don't need men, but it helps when men are, and NBA players are being advocates. And now you're going to feel like one of my students because I just thought of something, so now I'm going to have to look it up. And one of the
But
icon.
let
You
me
can
jump
talk,
in
yeah.
on that. Like, when we were in the bubble, all these guys wanted to watch the WNBA games that were happening in what we call the Wubble, that was happening in Bradenton, because the Wubble was in IMG Academy. So obviously completely different budget, different atmosphere than taking over 4 properties in Disney, right? But you know, these guys were so supportive. They were so proud to wear their WNBA sweatshirts.
Look at you. How did you know what I was pulling up?
Yeah, that sweatshirt was like the hottest selling thing. And these guys were fighting over it. They'd be like, Marianne, like, get me the sweatshirt. And I didn't have any more.
I'm going to
It
show
was
them the
it
class
was
right
a
while you're
big
talking.
deal.
Yeah, there's actually this whole, and I'm going to put it in the chat for them, how the WNBA hoodie became, it's called how the
Where did I
WNBA
find this
hoodie
chat?
became the hottest garm in the bubble. And yeah, so let me just share my screen. And this is gonna my class. They know I'm a big softie. This is I'm gonna try to show this real quick because then I'll get to LeBron wearing it. But the day that this kind of all changed and people started being like, it was this picture here was Kobe Bryant advocating for his daughter and um, the WNBA, and when he walked out think about like one of the greatest NBA players probably ever walking in a gym wearing a WNBA hoodie. Um, and I don't know if I've told my class the story. I've told everyone else. So the day that he and his daughter and the other 9 passed away, I was actually before this had happened, I was speaking to my wife and I was saying, I was showing her that picture, and I was actually showing her. So this is LeBron going in the bubble, and I was showing her the books that I have, and I said, look how much of an advocate he is. And I was showing a clip of his Natalia playing volleyball, and I was like, I want to be. And this is before my son was born, so I was like, I want to be this for Maverick. I want to be this type of dad. I want to do this. I took a nap. My wife wakes me up, takes a nap. She's like, I don't. And my wife is very like, I'm gonna curse. She's like, there's I won't curse because this is gonna be recorded. This is recorded. She's no BS. Like if I'm upset that West Virginia lost, she's like, she'll look at me and be like, are you kidding? You have 2 kids. Get over it. Let's go. And she woke me up and she's like, I have no idea how to tell you this, but Kobe Bryant just was in a helicopter crash and passed away. And I'm like, it was one of those where you say, like people say like it's a dream. It literally, I didn't know if it was a dream or not because I was asleep. And so, but yeah, so where I'm going with that is people need champions and people need advocates. Like you need to advocate for yourself. And I linked in the article in the chat so you guys, the team, you guys could read it. But how this hoodie became, the hottest thing, and it's a WNBA gear. Even the person that made it was like, I had no idea that was ever going to happen. All right, so let me jump back to questions here. Well, how was the transition from working football to basketball? Was it seamless? Were you knowledgeable about basketball as much as you were football? Because I know you were football at Stony Brook. And by the way, we have we're doing a March Madness competition class a little differently than everyone else does. We're doing it by week because I just don't have the mental capacity. And we are doing men and women, so we were upset to see that Stony Brook did lose. I was hoping they'd pull out a win for the women's basketball, but I'm trying to do my job too with women's sports.
No, of course, and that's totally appreciated. I think teaching that to everybody, and putting that on the same level, and getting that needle movement forward is important. So I'm the kind of person where I've learned 2 things about me. I thought that football was everything to me. I thought I was in football. And I was set. I was like, I'm going to get a job with the Giants. I'm going to work for the New York Giants because I love the team atmosphere. And I was like, I'm going to get a job with the Giants. I am going to be their like team person. I know it. And I couldn't get a job. And I was like debating what I was going to do, but I was so gung-ho about being in football. So one of my mentors, is the director of football information for the New York Giants. So I was like working with him to try and see what I could do. And he was like, I'll help you get into game day, but I have a thought for you. He was like, why don't you try doing basketball stats at the Garden? And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I don't know what that means. And so he goes, start slow, start at the New York Liberty. They're at Prudential Center right now, which is in Newark. And he was like, and that was, I forgot what summer was that. So 2013. And he was like, expose yourself to that. Even if you don't know it, learn it on the fly. And I think that just jumping into something, like taking a calculated risk is important. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. This sets me up at MSG. Who knows where this will take me, but this sets me up at Madison Square Garden. I'm going to get exposure to a sport that's going to help build my name. Let's see where we can go from there. Then I became the primary person for the Westchester Knicks, which was the G League, well, at the time, development league of the NBA. But I started doing stats for the Westchester Knicks, and then I started doing secondary inputting for stats or secondary calling for stats for the New York Knicks. So that exposure, being in that environment and going to the Garden and doing those games, like I learned what pick and roll was and what, like, I was inputting all that stuff on the computer. So I had to learn, and I got familiar with, okay, that's an offensive rebound. That's, and I'm shouting these things out. So the more you do it, the more you're learning and getting accustomed to those types of plays. So, the transition was not easy, but it's part of, again, growth. And in that exposure has helped given me almost a little bit of leverage, but it's also given me such like this, I'm more well-rounded because I can do different things. So now and it wasn't seamless at all, because I was like, okay, maybe I'll jump into representing players, and then let me create my own thing and let me manage players. So I was working with like a Yankee. I was working at the time, and I was working with different people at the time. And then I had landed a job at NBA because I was doing contracts with NBA events. So I'd go to AllStar and I'd do things, and then I got brought on full time. So it wasn't seamless, but all the hard parts made me appreciate what I have now even more.
So, and I love what you said, because you said your mentor told you basically, and you said you just had to jump in, and that, because one of the questions is, what would you say to someone that wants to pursue their dreams but is too scared to take risks? And I think you already answered it by saying you just have to kind of you got to get in and do it. So I really like that answer. This is probably a real quick question. Or not real quick, I'm sorry, you mentioned MSG. What was your most memorable experience at MSG? Like, do you have one memory, like, that you were working at a specific
I read this
person?
question, and I don't know if I have one. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I don't know if I have certain moments, but like, I've created special moments with my family going there. Oh, you know what? At MSG, maybe not a Knicks game. I don't have like a defining moment in Knicks.
Yeah.
Like my generation of Knicks is not the
Yes,
same as
I
the
know.
90s generation. So it's pretty rough. But I'll say that MSG, we did AllStar 2015 there. And I was working with the NBA as like just a contract employee at the time. But that was amazing to see. I mean, MSG is incredible because you see the transformation from ice rink to the court to now AllStar. They add a stage, and it was Christina Aguilera and Ariana Grande like performing, and like it's incredible. It really is. So probably just seeing MSG being taken over by AllStar 2015, that was pretty incredible.
And some people,
I wasn't a big part of it at that time, but to be able to be this person that could, watch it and kind of sit back and be like, wow, like it was incredible.
yeah, and for some people out there, they might not even realize Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks play, is where the Rangers play, and they have to like. And I remember in the '90s, they were actually both in the playoffs or the finals. I know the Rangers were in the Stanley Cup. I don't know if the Knicks were in the finals or the Eastern Conference Finals, whatever it was. And there was a conspiracy thing that because they had to do it so quickly that it was warping the floor of the Knicks, and people were slipping, and it was like a whole thing. But yeah, people might not even realize. Like, think about MSG, you'd be like, oh well, it's New York City. We have all this different. Well, we don't really have a lot of room, so we have to, work with what. So to see that transformation must be amazing. I've only seen that once, and it was at the Carrier Dome in at Syracuse. I was working basketball camp, and it was the last day of camp. And I remember we left to go get lunch, and we came back, and there was just one basketball court left, and the rest was it was turned into the football field. And it was just like, what just happened? But
it's amazing.
It just kind of goes to work ethic, because when you have a bunch of people working for the common goal of as simple as we're changing from football to basketball to football, it gets accomplished instead of staring at it and being like, oh, I can't do this. Right. So speaking of, you said the AllStar Game stuff, this will answer, because I think like 5 people asked this question, and I'm going to rephrase it though. Was there like, who was the person, because you mentioned LeBron, that was there anyone that you were in awe of, like that you were just like how do like, you know, that's that person, you know what I'm saying? Was there ever does that
Yeah.
still happen ever, or no? Like, is it just no?
No, it sounds a little like I'm pretty accustomed to it. Um, you know,
And I think that helps you,
no,
right? Because you're working. So when you're not, you
they're
I've
so
never,
they're so chill. Like
yeah,
I can't sit here like, especially in the environment that I was around them, you see that they have common, I mean, yeah, they live a high profile lifestyle, but at the same time, like they're still people. They have kids, they have families, they have thoughts on different issues. They have interests, they have hobbies, like they're people, and just being able to talk to them, we're all in the same age. Well, I'm more with the older generation
I was
now.
just about
Like
to say, you're probably, it's funny because you're
I'm one
probably
of the
older than,
older ones now, apparently. It's so
that's
weird.
great.
Like my generation is like the, LeBron, Kyle Lowry, the 30s and up. And then, there were so many guys who are, who's taking over now? Devin Booker, Jason
Yeah.
Tatum. Those guys are young. So it's a different game, but, it's still pretty cool. But no, am I in on anyone? I don't think so. I think I'm way. It's just. I think that's gone. I've never met Kobe, but I'm sure that Kobe would do that for me.
I've obviously never met him. I got the chance to see him live play once in at the Garden, actually, and something I'll never forget. But yeah, I can't talk. It's so corny, but I can't really talk about him too much, or I get very. He was a big part of. It's weird how people, and I'm sure you have people like this in your life. People can be such a big part of your life that you've never even like talked to, but you might have
Yeah,
just
I
you
mean,
read, or you know.
it was interesting. Yeah, Kobe had that effect for a lot of us, and we were shaken. I think when that happened, you know, and
Yeah.
that day it was so interesting because I was talking to Vince Carter, and it was his
Guys,
birthday.
I swear I didn't like tell her what I was doing in class before she came in. Today was the first day we've ever done this. Sorry to interrupt you. We do Motivation Monday, so today was like, oh, we're gonna do Throwback Thursday because my daughter's obsessed with Basketball, the song by Lil Bow Wow and Jermaine Dupri, and
Mm-hmm.
in my head I always had the line, "Were you there the night Vince Carter came, stuck his arm through the rim, everybody went crazy in the whole damn gym." That's me rapping, by the way. So we
So,
watched the Vince Carter dunk contest from 2000, and I was showing them.
which
I'm
is the
like,
best. There,
yeah.
there was never there's never going to be a better one.
And I try to explain that to them. I'm like, you have
Huh.
people jumping over cars now, but this guy came out and just did it and like was silky smooth. And then when you can have Shaquille O'Neal standing up, like, that you. But I interrupted you. I don't even know. You were saying how you were phoning
Vince,
Vince
it
Carter.
was Vince's birthday on January
Oh,
26th. So we were in great conversation and everything was good, and then that happened. So it was a tough moment for so many. Like a lot of it felt like there was like time stopped for a little bit for a lot of us.
nope. Now my watch is off to remind me I have class later. Okay. Where were you though when the NBA stopped, like for COVID, and like how did that kind of get communicated to you? Like, was it like the rest of us at first? We were like, really, there can't. And then when we kind of, because that was really before the pandemic kind of took over everyone's life. Like, it was very in the beginning when Rudy Gobert decided to touch everyone's microphone and they're pulling teams off the floor. Like, how was that as being kind of like an employee? Like, how did that, like, what was the process? Like, how did you find out? What?
I think it was a Thursday night when Adam stopped the games. It was like
That's
9 o'clock.
Marianne's referencing Adam Silver, the commissioner, right?
Yes. And he had stopped the games, and he said, we'll put a pause on everything. We went to work the next day as employees, and I'll say specifically for my department, my boss was like, let's just get at lunch for everybody. Let's sit down and let's everybody, we'll tell everyone, like, gather your stuff, and then we'll see how this goes. And at the time we probably thought we'd be home for 2 weeks. So it was definitely a huge adjustment, but we made it work. We utilized Zoom a lot more. We really emphasized communication. So, it happened really quickly. All of a sudden we were home. We were, and I don't have a family. I don't have kids and stuff like that. So, I'm sure it was a huge adjustment for all my coworkers who do have families. But it was a lot of figuring out how to work from home. That was it.
Yeah.
It happened pretty quickly.
I just want to get a couple more in before we end. We have 3 minutes left. Do you go to NBA games for free? That was a question. I would guess yes.
Yeah, I do. I'm actually flying to Miami next week, and I'll go see the Heat and the Warriors play. So I'm very excited. I love the Heat.
I will be on spring break learning how to administer the NJSLA park exam remotely, which is something I don't know how we're going to do. Anyway, who are you rooting for in the AllStar game? That was a question on here.
Who was I rooting for?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the one that just happened?
Yeah. So someone actually asked this, and we weren't going to talk to you before. So they asked this before the game happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't really cheer. I don't know. I
guess hard to. I don't understand what you're saying.
I guess I'll go with Team LeBron. And I say that because there's a player that's young, and he was a first-time All-Star, and I met him in the bubble, and he is incredible. He's just a good human being, and he has such heart, and he's extremely intelligent, which is Boston Celtics player Jaylen Brown.
Okay, I was about to say, you're not going to name drop for us? Come on.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Jaylen Brown. I was cheering for him. I consider him like a little brother. To see him continuously achieve goals and just, it's a goal for players to reach the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And so to see him accomplish that, and for LeBron to acknowledge him as underrated, and it's special. It's a special thing. So I would say him. And he taught me how to ride a bike this summer. I don't know how to ride a bike.
You never knew how to ride a bike?
I didn't know how to ride a bike. And then I was in the bubble, and,
Well, now you can teach my daughter, because she just sits there. I even got straps for her feet, but she hasn't really figured out the coordinate.
I probably need that too still. But, people had taught me, a couple people had taught me how to ride a bike, and I'm thankful to them forever. So.
And our last question, I want to try to get a one-word answer. This is gonna be tough. In one word, what's your why?
My parents.
I was just about to say, I know what she's gonna say. Family, parents.
Obsessed. That's it. I do this for them, and it's so funny you said that, because I just put my background, and it said I just made my background, which is when the why is clear, the how is easy.
See, I keep going. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
Well, you and I have always been like,
I was just going to say, me and Marianne are very connected, even though we only knew each other as like teacher-student type of relationship for a couple months, because I only started in February. But and to go to Marianne's work ethic, when she was starting in the NBA, she asked me for all of my basketball stuff. So she came and was looking at, I'm like, that none of this is going to make sense to you. These are all like plays, but she was just looking at organization and stuff like that. But I the same with me. My family always coming first. But these kids are now leave because we're ending. So we're gonna thank you. I thank you. I gave them your email if you had any questions.
Yes, email me whatever you guys need. Let me know.
But yeah, thank you. I'm gonna go teach athletic coaching now. And these guys, I'll put it in the chat. I won't see you until after break. So April 6th, I'll see you guys on that Tuesday. Everyone just give Marianne a little wave if you could.
Email me, let me know if you need anything, and we'll talk for sure.
All right. Bye, everybody. Bye, Marianne.
Bye.